right, so the traditional National Signing Day is in the books, the first Wednesday of February. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Miami, of course, with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We have been here about 5 consecutive Wednesdays, and I have sent out the link and the notification early, so everybody who has been expressing their concerns, that's how I'll place it and put it over the last several weeks, that they can't find us. Here we are, 7 o'clock Eastern time, as advertised on Wednesday night, the night of National Signing Day. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, man, good. Tired, I'm not going to lie. Was up till like 4 in the morning writing yesterday, and then got up nice and early today and just, grinded through because got a little behind on stuff. But, just wanted to have pretty much everything ready for everybody. So, yeah, just, grinded all the way through National Signing Day, and I'm doing this, and I tweeted it out. And then said, I hope that people enjoy this because I'm openly telling people that I'm exhausted. But, you do it for the people, and that's what we're here for. So just wrapping up the class and, putting a bow on 2019 and then glancing an eye towards 2020 maybe.
Well, thank you for giving us some time. So in about 57 minutes, your forehead can hit the mic or hit the table.
Yeah, I mean, then that's pretty much exactly what's going to happen. And even if you've been watching for a couple of weeks, you know that I usually have a family traditional drink, if you know. But no, I'm rocking water today, bro. Just like, I'm tired.
That might just put you to sleep if you went with the standard fare there. So that's probably not going to get it this time around.
I know some people are looking like, well, like, what are you talking? If you were here a couple of weeks ago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, well, then I guess you shouldn't have missed it. But like I said, yeah, I'm on some water and everything, just hanging out. So we'll have a good time.
So everybody, you can go back and catch the old videos just for that. And you can also, soon as we wrap up here, of course, you go to the State of the U and you check out all the National Signing Day coverage as Cam rests, you read up. And that's what we're going to do. All right, Cam, one big get from the number one team in the country most of last season that finished, of course, a runner-up in the national championship game. That would be Alabama, and that would be the big prize of the day.
Yeah, and Alabama signed arguably the best recruiting class in the history of ranked recruiting classes. So that's a pretty good thing. I mean, I guess, like being, having the highest ranked class ever. But Miami did get cornerback Christian Williams from Daphne, Alabama, who was an Alabama commit. He was, like a soft commit. He was looking around. He's a player who took visits other places. And if you follow recruiting at all, you know that Alabama is like staunchly opposed to committed players taking visits elsewhere. But Christian Williams did that. He visited Miami. He visited Tennessee. He visited LSU. He visited Texas A&M. But yeah, his visit to Miami was the one that really, did the trick. Mike Rumph, the cornerbacks coach, is built similarly, like physically, to Christian Williams. They're both that 6'1", 6'2", almost 200-pound range. And he went out to Alabama. Mike Rumph made first contact and was like, yo, if you're not solid with Alabama, because Christian Williams was committed but did not sign early, which, is kind of the tell of maybe I want to take some more visits. Maybe I'm not 100% in with whatever school I'm committed to. And Mike Rumph went out there. There was a story that went down the timeline that he went to a Waffle House out in the Alabama area, and he was wearing a Miami shirt like I'm wearing. And somebody at the Waffle House saw the U on his chest and said, man, you're wasting your time out here. You're not going to get anybody from out here. Might as well go back home to Miami. He said, all right, I'm just going to do what I do. And what Mike Rumph did is get a top 200 kind of player, a top 20 cornerback in this class, 4-star kid, 6'1", 182, running about a 4.6 40 to come over to Miami. Christian Williams is going to start out probably at cornerback, just like Mike Rumph did, because again, like I said, they're similarly sized. And it's going to be really Christian Williams' play that dictates if he stays at corner or if he bumps inside to safety. If you look at the history of Miami Hurricanes football specifically, because I do like to use Miami Hurricanes examples for Miami Hurricanes signees when at all possible. If you look at like a Sheldrick Redwine, he started at corner through high school and into his freshman year and sophomore year, and then he bumped inside to safety. If you look at Antrell Roll, he kind of did the same thing. He was able to stick at cornerback a little bit longer, and then he transitioned to safety in the NFL, but a similar kind of transition. Even if you look at a Rod Woodson, a Charles Woodson, lock down corners for a while, you get a step slower, you move inside. So it'll really be up to Christian Williams to, really be the determining factor if he stays at corner or safety. But either way, any way you look at it, it's a big get for Miami. It's a huge get to get Williams from, like I said, Daphne, Alabama, was committed to Alabama. And even if that was a tenuous soft commit or whatever, he's coming to Miami. So that was the biggest only win of the day for the Hurricanes. You also signed Peyton Matoka, who's a 3-star quarterback out of Houston, Texas, St. Thomas High School, who was the private school co-offensive player of the year. He signed early this morning. Australian punter Lewis Headley signed yesterday, actually, because he's home in Australia. So he could sign at 8 o'clock a.m. his time, which was 8:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. And then his pictures went viral because people didn't. You don't pay attention to punters except for we knew who he was. And if you have not seen, Lewis Headley is 6'4", 245, and he's tatted. I mean, he's yadded everywhere. He's yoked. He's jacked. So you just look at all of his pictures and everything. That went viral. So he signed. And then the other player who signed today was Jared Harrison Hunt, a 3-star defensive tackle out of Christ the King in New York City. He was a basketball player for years, and then he just recently transitioned to the gridiron. But he's super athletic, 6'4", 285. But if you look at his basketball highlights, like, he's swatting stuff out the sky. He's dunking on people. Like, he does not move like he's almost 290 pounds. So, if he can keep that athleticism on the field of, for football, that'll be a good thing. So, the win of the day in a recruiting battle was Christian Williams, and then the other 3 guys signed. And then actually Miami was able to get a transfer today too. Trayvon Hill from Virginia Tech. He signed today and was announced, and that was kind of on the heels of a recruiting loss for a high school player. I don't know if Mark is going to lead me in that direction, but so added about 4 or 5 players today.
Yeah, well, Cam, what's better here is for you to lead the conversation. So regardless of my questions, you always take it away because you know where the hot spots are and where we need to go with this. Of course, National Signing Day is just about all wrapped up. Miami and Cam Underwood from State of the U. So when he hits the the pillow, you check out State of the U. I'm going to run through the live chat. If you got some decent comments and questions, I see a few in there. I'm going to yank those out. Otherwise, I will call a bit of a shout out. Cam mentions Trayvon Hill from Virginia Tech, a guy that we've talked about numerous times in the last month here. And I'm sure Cam and the crew over at State of the U has a breakdown on Trayvon Hill as well. Chef Dade, Cindy, Sean Jackson, all good to see you. Carlos Rivera, George, James for Life, Kane Fam, Carlos again, Albert, on down the line. We've got about 82 on the line, and I will take it to offensive linemen in the transfer portal. According to a number of the folks in the live chat, Cam, there are some opportunities there.
Yeah, there are offensive linemen in the transfer portal. We actually wrote an article about that the other day. It was not myself. It was another contributor to State of the U, evaluating some of the options in the transfer portal. The number one name to really know is Parker Braun. He was a 4-star All-American out of high school out of Orlando. And he went to Georgia Tech, was 2-time first-team All-ACC, and now he's transferring as a grad transfer. So he will have 2 years to play too at his next school. So that's obviously where you would want to start, in that he is a Florida native, and he has. It has been reported that he has interest in the University of Miami. I've seen other people saying that Braun and his younger brother, who's a 2020 recruit, I want to say, are both Florida locks. So they're going to go to Florida and not Miami. But that's a person that you're going to want to look at. A former 5-star, Drew Richmond, who's a 5-star recruit. He went to Tennessee. He's transferring away from there. That's maybe somebody that you want to look at. He had a very poor season and is maybe looking for a fresh start. So maybe that could be at Miami. And there's some other names. If you go up on the website, I forget who wrote it, one of our guys. But I know that whoever, I should actually go look it up as we're talking. But it's going to be on the second page because I wrote all this recruiting stuff today, of course. Actually, no, it's Marshall Thomas. There we go. He looked at a few guys in the transfer portal, and he did the research. So there are some names there, and that's really kind of where Miami is going to need to look. There's only, I think, 12 or 13 scholarship linemen right now, but when you're talking about all 3 freshmen are not going to play, and then maybe a couple redshirt freshmen are not going to play, that means you only have maybe 7 or 8 in the rotation. You really need another guy or two. And so the transfer portal will be a place to maybe go make that happen.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. Check him out right there, and the rest of the staff covering Miami football, of course, and the big wrap-up of National Signing Day and the entire class. We'll get to the numbers in just a second. Checking out your comments on the live chat. Cam, it appears as though a number of people are quite done with the Chris Bogle saga, many calling him a drama queen, and just done after investing so much time and emotion and a hope into one Chris Bogle.
Yeah, and that's where I figured people were going to go with it. Trayvon Hill came down because Chris Bogle decided he was going to go to Florida. He was committed to Alabama, and I have it on good authority that Chris Bogle was going to commit to Miami a couple of times earlier and kept putting it off. Then he was going to announce for Tennessee at the Adidas All-American game and had told everybody in NBC production he was going to pick Tennessee. Changed his mind on the spot, got up there and said, no, I'm going to Alabama. Didn't sign early because obviously he committed on January 5th. Went through after, Alabama had a bunch of staff turnover. Craig Kuligowski, their defensive line coach, might be on the way out. Tosh Lupoy, their defensive coordinator, is gone already. And so he started looking around. Chris Bogle, he came back to Miami for a second official visit, his 6th total, because you can do that if a team that you've already visited has a coaching change, so you can go back. So he came here, he went to Florida. He did, all these different kind of things. And then, he goes to Florida. And in the aftermath of that, Manny Navarro from The Athletic and Andrew Ivins from 247 Sports, I believe, both said pretty much immediately that, okay, yeah, Trayvon Hill is coming. And Miami said Trayvon Hill is coming. And if you mention a player by name, that means that you have something signed already. And so, yeah, I understand it. Like I said, I live right by Cardinal Gibbons, not too very far away in Fort Lauderdale. Been following, Chris Bogle for a couple of years. He was at the top of the wish list for this recruiting class. We've been on him for a long time. I believe Miami was his first scholarship offer. And yeah, he, decided to spurn Miami not once, but twice with 2 different commitments. So yeah, I understand the frustration. I understand people being done with him. I don't necessarily think that he was a diva in the way that a lot of people mean. Because if you look back at the history of things, Keith Bryant from Delray Beach Atlantic, who went to Florida State, that was a kid who openly trolled. He openly came on social media. He was, why don't y'all love me? Why don't you, show me the love? Why don't you do this? Oh, I'm going to go over here. He went to FAU, Florida Atlantic's camp, Keith Bryant, with a couple friends, trying to get the friends offers to FAU, showing out, being all kinds of a jerk. And he and the other premium player from his high school who were there were asked to leave that camp even. So the lower ranked kids were able to stay. Keith Bryant, he was a person who was always out there trying. I mean, he committed to Miami, Florida, and then ended up at Florida State. That was a kid who was a diva. He was out there like that. I don't necessarily see Chris Bogle that same kind of way. I just think that he's a 17, 18-year-old kid who's very undecided. And I think that the nature of the discontent of the fan base is or any fan base who was rooting for Bogle to go to their school and he didn't, is the fact that he just wasn't. He was wishy-washy, and that kind of is really what I think it was, more than being a diva. But I understand, people don't like it and everything. But for 2019, Miami got a better player. Now, I'm not going to say for 4 years, 5 years down the line, but for this year coming up, Trayvon Hill, that's a better player. Now, the thing about it is you're only going to have Trayvon Hill for 1 year. So you got to play that, longevity thing off against, what Chris Bogle can be in 2022 or 2021 when he's a junior or senior. You know what I mean? But for this season, Miami got a better player. So, as I did the final grades for this recruiting class, I looked at the high school players' prospects exclusively, because transfers are different. That's not a recruiting class. That's a thing that we did to cover the gaps. It's a thing that we did to improve the roster, but it's not the recruiting class per se. So if you're looking at it on a recruiting class level, Miami missed out on a Chris Bogle, so there's a hole there. But you go to this secondary avenue the transfer portal and you get somebody in, to fill that up. So, like I said, I understand, the nature of the discontent. I get people being upset at Mark Anthony Richards because Amon Richards came to Miami and you want his younger brother to come to Miami and he ends up going to Auburn. It's the same thing. RJ McIntosh's younger brother, Kenny McIntosh, 4-star recruit. He goes to Georgia as a running back. All the other players that Miami was up for, went elsewhere today. Kyer Elam follows his family legacy, goes to Florida. Darius Washington from Pensacola, Florida State was his dream school. I don't know why they didn't offer until last week or 2 weeks ago, because he's good enough to go there and play there. And obviously with their offensive line needing help, he goes to Florida State. So I get it. And especially, like I said, in the Chris Bogle thing, I just think he was undecided. And I've seen that in so many recruits before, but he wasn't openly like trolling and trying to be a diva. I just think that he needed to make his mind up. And the fact that he didn't in a timely fashion just rubbed some people the wrong way, but I understand it.
All right, folks, with 128 of you on the line, we should have 128 likes. So help us out there. If we deliver quality content here in discussion, debate, analysis, and everything else involving Miami football, then please smash the like button. Give us a comment, not just to the live chat, but once the videos post, give us your comments as well. YouTube loves that. And of course, you got to share and subscribe. Share the videos to your acquaintances on social media. I made the point last week when we topped out at 325 on the line that we could do 1,000 within a few weeks. So I think we could do that. I will give a shout out here to Mr. Poker. We got Lenorius Murray, Miguel Ramirez, the closer, and Leon Hurricanes, who joins us on a regular basis as well. People are excited, Cam, about already, of course, 2020, and I checked out the rankings at number 3. It's very early, but number 3 in the nation for next year.
Yeah, and Miami has had a penchant to do that over the last couple of years, have a really great recruiting class for the next cycle, kind of thing. Even going back to when Al Golden was coach, and then you have some attrition there. This has been kind of the standard operating procedure for the better part of a decade, to be perfectly honest. So, hopefully Miami is able to use this momentum, use this new energy from Manny Diaz and the coaching staff, this hashtag TNM, the new Miami brand that they're pushing out there. Hopefully that's a thing that will be able to, help get entice recruits to come and stay. And then obviously, winning games. I mean, like I said, it was number 9 in the 9 installments of the recruiting rules, but it matters so much because it's proof of concept. If you cannot win, then you're not going to really get top end players in bulk like that. But yeah, Miami, is in a good spot. Even this past weekend got 5 commits from Junior Day on Sunday. 3 of them are 2020 commits. Don Chaney Jr., who's a running back from Miami Belen Jesuit School, who is like super good. I mean, he's 5'11", 195. His dad is like 6'3", so he could even grow to be 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". And Chaney Jr. is a beast. He was a star for Belen as a freshman in high school. He was a legendary Optimist player at the middle school, Optimist level, things like that. So he just committed, and that's a big get. He's been the number 1 running back on Miami's board for 2020 for 3 years now. And to get him to finally pop, that's a big thing. So keeping him committed would be great. Joining him in committing this last weekend was Ladarius Tennyson from Rockledge, who's 5'9", 193 pounds. He's built in the Jaquan Johnson mold. He plays both ways in high school, but Miami is recruiting him as a safety. And the first play of his highlight reel, the opposing team kind of ran a running back screen to the side. And Tennyson just destroys this kid. I mean, like, he's 20 yards away and he comes down and puts his shoulder in his midsection. And I mean, just the kid crumbles. Like, it's impressive. So, having him commit this past weekend also was a 2020 player. Additionally, on top of that, Jaden Francois, who tied a Miami-Dade County record with 12 interceptions last year for Homestead South Dade. I think he had like 8 games in a row with the interception. First team all day, first or second team all state, I want to say. He was committed to Miami in July. He and his teammate decommitted in December, and then Jaden Francois recommitted at Junior Day. So yeah, even just getting momentum going for 2020 recently. There are 9 commits in that group already. 3 defensive linemen. One of them might decommit, I've heard, but we'll see. 2 wide receivers, a tight end from Naples, Dominic Mammarelli, who's a beast. He's like 6'4", 235. I think he was that big as like a high school sophomore. So, I mean, just last year, but still, that's a big kid. But yeah, Miami's in a good spot for 2020. So, you know, obviously pushing for a couple other guys, you know, Carson Beck, 4-star recruit from Jacksonville, Mandarin High School. They won the 8A state championship. They blew, or 7A, they blew out whoever they played. Was that Aquinas? I think they blew out Aquinas. It was somebody. He put on a show in the state championship game. He was committed to Alabama, but he decommitted. And, you know, Alabama's old quarterbacks coach is our quarterback coach, offensive coordinator now. So it's going to be a Miami and Florida battle for him because he visited both of them last weekend before decommitting from Alabama. But he's a premium player that Miami's chasing. And obviously getting a Carson Beck would be huge for the 2020 recruiting class. But there's plenty of guys around. I haven't dug super deep into the 2020 class just because, you know, today is 2019's signing day. But I will definitely dig further into that. But yeah, the foundation is already there for a really, really great class for Miami. I think that, and the staff has already tweeted out, they said, look, 2019's in the book. The director of recruiting, Matt Doherty, he said, we're not expecting any more high school recruits to sign this year. So you know what that means? We're looking forward. So we're coming after you. They've already put out the graphics. They've already said, look, we can visit your schools. We can offer you scholarships. We can evaluate you. We're turning our focus to 2020 right now. So those people in the comments section who are watching right now talking about, hey, you know, Miami's in a good spot. Yes, they are. The staff is energized. The staff is going to push that. There are obviously hurdles to be cleared, like winning games, like proving and demonstrating the offense being developing, having guys drafted into the league, all of those kind of things. But as it stands right now, Miami is in a good spot for 2020, so they just got to push forward.
159 on the line. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam Underwood, State of the U, of course, our staple guest here. And I guess that's not even a good description. Cam is the analyst for Miami football that joins us on a regular basis. We got Vike 2004, J Love T, Big Poppy JT among the 167 on the line. Cam's the best commentator. Cam's the bomb. Man, I'm going to stop right there. Cam, you're going to have a huge head if I continue to run down these comments. But there is also some commentary here. Well, let's just go to the overall numbers here. So we've got 3 enrolled on campus. We've got 14 signed in addition to those 3. Mm-hmm. So that's 17. That's number 4 in the ACC, which is quite a bit better, probably about 3 to 4 spots higher than when we were talking 4 to 5 weeks ago, and number 28 in the nation, according to 247 Sports. So a decent rally.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse, honestly. You know, if you don't get Harrison Hunt and he goes to Penn State, if you don't flip, you know, Williams and he goes to LSU or something like that, I mean, you're squarely in the low 30s, almost pushing 40. But yeah, even, you know, just getting all those guys, you know, in the class. It's not the biggest class. It's not the best class. You know, I already did the class roundup or recap breakdown. Excuse me. Duh. I should know what I call my own pieces, right? Class breakdown with the grades and everything. So, you know, you did hit some of the tent poles that you need to have. You needed multiple offensive linemen. You got 3. You didn't get any that were game ready, but you got 3. Needed 4. So, okay, that's a little bit of a ding there. You needed like 5 DBs. You got 3. You needed a quarterback because that's recruiting rule number 1, and you got 1. So, yeah, you know, Miami did do some good things. Jafari Harvey, who's one of the early enrollees, is a beast. He's a kid, again, who was rated as a 3-star. Everybody who saw him was like, what? So he's a 4-star guy, and he's going to play rotation snaps this year. Pretty much, I guarantee that. Jeremiah Payton, a 4-star wide receiver from Duncan U. Fletcher High School. He can play rotation snaps, you know, because he's just a baller. So there are players to like. Keontre Smith is another good player. Avery Huff is a physical freak as a linebacker out of Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good get me over class. You know what I mean? It's a 3-0 fastball at 85 miles an hour. You know, just I'm trying to put it in there. Hopefully he has a take sign. He's not going to try to swing, but it's a get me over fastball. It's in the zone. Okay, it's a strike. We can move forward from there. But yeah, I mean, last year's class was a high note. You know, last year was top 10. they're 8th in the country. 2020 could be, similar or better. So it's not a high note, but it's good enough to get by. And like I was talking about before, that's looking at the recruiting class in a vacuum. But now if you add in this transfer portal where Miami has been the team doing work, like the biggest and best team. I mean, you got Tate Martell, quarterback, former 5-star. You got Asa Martin, 4-star running back. You got KJ Osborne coming in from Buffalo as a wide receiver transfer. You got Tommy Kennedy from Butler, who's a transfer. And you're looking at maybe other guys. You got Trayvon Hill, like I said, today as a transfer. Chigozie Naruka as a transfer. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start looking and adding in the transfers, that now affects the roster overall. So the class wasn't the greatest, but the additions through recruiting and free agency, I will call it, were good enough in this offseason. But yeah, the recruiting class by itself of high school kids is good but not great, and hopefully will be better in years in years to come. And then when you're selecting from the transfer portal, you're really just getting superstars on top of a really great class.
Cam hit a number of the comments and the questions that came up multiple times, including how did he feel about the class? Did we hit all of the positional needs? Those sorts of things. Good to see William Lee on the line, Mike Williams, Carroll City Kane. If I don't mention you, of course, that's not intentional. So just shouting out to a number of people that I see here online. Number of people asking about the quarterback situation. We addressed the quarterback situation a number of times. I don't know that Cam has anything else to say about the quarterback situation until we hit spring practice and something actually happens on the field. You got 3 impressive dudes. One has meaningful experience, N'Kosi Perry. Is there anything else to address here, Cam?
Right. I mean, it's really just reiterating the same thing that we've said before. I did see Dan Enos because, the coaches were made available for comment today. I did see that he was talking about quarterbacks. I didn't get a chance to read that because, I was writing thousands of words. So I'll have to go back on that. I think it was 247 Rivals and the Miami Herald had recaps on what he said. So you can go look those up. But basically, with adding Peyton Matoka, now Miami has 5 scholarship quarterbacks. And may the best man win. So obviously I did see that in the blurb on Twitter, somebody, one of the outlets did say that Enos was talking about how he's evaluating quarterbacks and what he's looking for in quarterbacks. So I need to read that, and you do too. But Miami, like I said, they have 5 scholarship quarterbacks now, 3 redshirt sophomores in Tate Martell, N'Kosi Perry, and Cade Weldon, a redshirt freshman in Jaron Williams, and a true freshman now in Peyton Matoka. I don't expect Peyton Matoka to really factor in the battle at the end of the day, especially coming from a private school where he cannot get to Miami until May or June. But he's there. So there are now numbers at the position, and I'm not going to say everybody is like a first-team All-ACC caliber guy, but you have Miami caliber guys, multiple of them at the quarterback position, which has not been the case in years past. Even if you take the most pessimistic view of Peyton Matoka and say he's a program guy, he's going to be here for 4 years, graduate, maybe transfer somewhere else. Maybe as a 5th-year senior, if things go wrong, he's your Joe Cox from Georgia when Mark Richt was there and he starts for half a season, or he's a Kelly Bryant who starts for half a season. Well, not even that good, but Kelly Bryant's last season, 2018, where he starts a couple games before the super talented player behind him usurps that role. Even if you have that view of Matoka, there's still 4 guys in front of him. Whereas in the past, a guy like Matoka would be 2 or 3rd, like 2nd or 3rd in that battle. So yeah, there's not too much to really talk about, about guys, doing work and, pushing ahead and things like that, but just resetting the room. There's plenty of talent there, options abound. And then we'll see what happens when spring practice starts on March the 19th, I believe it is.
200 on the line, including Leon Hurricanes, who is calling me out for, and I noticed the irony because when I set up each for every, depending on the guest, if I can accommodate the guest in regards to the conference or the team, of course, I will do so. Miami was like in the 2nd row, so I brought it to the front, and I ironically saw that I had lined it up against or next to LSU, of course. The opening loss from last season, but I just left it, and then Leon calls me out for that. But that's long gone. And speaking of long gone, Mark Richt made his appearance on ESPN today. Cam, I don't know if you got a chance to see Mark Richt's analysis at all.
I did see some of Mark Richt on ESPN today, and it was funny because for two reasons. Well, yeah, really two reasons. So one, they were talking about recruiting quarterbacks. And so Mark Richt is talking about, you need to have a quarterback in every class, which is recruiting rule number one for the recruiting rules that I wrote last year. And, you got to do what you need to do and blah, blah, blah. And so I tweeted it. I was like, yeah, so he has this thought. This is a belief of his. But when he was here and his son was quarterbacks coach and Miami didn't have a quarterback committed and the plan was not to take a quarterback this year, I don't understand how you have that disconnect, because you're out here now processing this thought process and saying, you need to have a quarterback every year just for numbers at a bare minimum. But when you were a coach, you didn't want to do that. And I don't understand how you want to say that, because it was mind-boggling. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, actually, so there were three things. So one, it was the quarterback recruiting talk. Two, it was just kind of funny because Matt Schick, who was hosting the show, he was like, yeah, okay, so we're going to bring on Jerry Hamilton, who's ESPN's recruiting guy, and he lives in Florida. And I've met Jerry Hamilton at many recruiting events. He's a great guy. He does his job very well. And Matt Schick is like, yeah, so we're going to talk about the state of recruiting in the state of Florida versus Florida State versus Miami. And I'm like, the guy who tanked our recruiting this year is sitting right next to Matt Schick. And it was just I laughed about it because Mark Richt kind of had a sour face. And I'm like, bro, like, you knew what you were doing and you knew what you were doing wasn't good enough. So that was two. And then third, I just think that Mark Richt is going to slide into that, have a good position on television. I mean, he's well-spoken, he's articulate, he's Southern, so he has that kind of drawl and everything. So he fits into that void that was left by Mac Brown. So, I mean, he's personable, he's, all those kind of things. So, I think he plays well on television. So I think that he could do well and everything. But yeah, just specifically today, talking about recruiting, I'm just like, dude, like, it's the kid who burned down the house now being interviewed about arson. You know what I mean? This is like, well, I know like how this goes. It was just, I thought those things were funny. But yeah, I did see him on TV.
I will still never understand what exactly happened there. It looked like he had everything going the right way, and then all of a sudden it just went the wrong way, and he seemed to have forgotten how to not just coach, but run an organization. But we've talked about that, and it's all in the past. The one comment that Mark Richt made that I thought was funny was that Jim Mora was commenting just about being a football scout or coach and knowing a dude when you see a dude, or knowing a team line up even before you see them snap the ball and actually run and hit, just to see the guys when you can see a major college football team, but you can just see a monster team. And Jim Mora was talking about being at UCLA about 5 years ago. Dick Vermeil, former Rams Chiefs coach, who also coached at UCLA about 30, 40 years ago, was in UCLA camp and thought Jim Mora's team looked pretty good. And they actually finished in the top 10 in the nation that one season under Jim Mora, but not too many of those. And then a little bit later, Vermeil was visiting other camps around the nation, went to Alabama, phoned Mora and said, yeah, your team looks pretty good, but man, I just saw these dudes walk off the bus at Alabama, and it's just like night and day. Like, you've got like 5 of these guys, and they've got like 35 of these guys. So don't play Alabama. Right. And then Mark Richt chimes in and makes a comment about, well, I signed us up to play Alabama, and then I took off.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I mean, he sees the hilarity in that. Like, yeah, like you said, Jim Mora was like, oh, yeah, I have a good team. Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning coach. Like, yeah, he thought so too. And then he called and said, bro, don't schedule Alabama. And then Mark Richt, yeah, he's like, cool. So those guys over there are going to play Alabama at my alma mater, where I just was working for a couple of years. But I'm going to be here with this cushy studio job now. So I did think that was funny as well. But, that's only a couple of years away, and man, we got work to do.
And we're only about 7 or 8 months away from August 31st, and of course the matchup against Florida. We've got a number of people commenting, of course, in the live chat about that. In particular, we've got Carlos, who's interested about how the secondary 2-deep chart is going to look in week 1.
How the secondary 2-deep is going to look in week 1? That's a good question. Like I said last week on here, the safeties are going to be between Bubba Bolden, Gervin Hall, and Amari Carter. And then you can add in a fourth guy there. Maybe it's Gilbert Frierson as a super sub. Maybe it's, I don't know, but like you're going to have another guy. Maybe it's Keontre Smith who bumps his way up into the top four at safety. But I think that, those three dudes at the top, Carter, Hall, and Bolden, those are future NFL players. So those guys should be at the top of the rotation, definitely from the beginning of the season. So those guys are there, and I'm comfortable saying that. At cornerback, and that's where the kind of questions are for me. Definitely Trajan Bandy is going to be a starter at corner. And I don't think that there's any real controversy that can be had on that point. Behind him, I mean, DJ Ivey's going to need to step up. Al Blades is going to have to play more base defense snaps. He did play some this past year, but he was really a special teams guy. He was even special teams captain for a couple of games. Al Blades Jr. was, but he's going to have to play in more base defense. Gilbert Frierson, who redshirted last year, he's going to have to play in base defense. Corey Couch is just small and thin, so I don't necessarily think he's going to be out there against Florida. Christian Williams, Miami's newest signee today. That's a guy who's probably going to have to step up. And, maybe you cross-train some guys. Maybe you bump Gervin Hall down into the slot in nickel. You know what I mean? So you have three safeties and two corners, and you kind of have that positional versatility to be able to do that. So I would think between those guys is how your the top end of the secondary is going to be. But if I had to say starters right now, I would say Trajan Bandy and DJ Ivey at corner, Al Blades at nickel, or Al Blades could maybe even come in and play boundary and bump Bandy into the nickel inside on third downs. And then, like I said, 2 or 3 between Bolden, Carter, and Hall. I'll probably say Bolden and Carter to start, but don't quote me on that.
226 on the line. Thanks so much for liking the video. We've got 71 right now that have liked. So I understand from a number of comments on here, and I appreciate everyone who jumps on this live chat and encourages everybody else to hit the like button. And then people may mention that they're on their phone. It's difficult to do, whatever. No issues there. Enjoy the conversation, but we ask that you keep that in mind, and then you go back after the video post and just hit the like button. So help us out right there. We've got CT Liberty City on the line. Birdman, the Wholesome One, saying the great Cam Underwood, the Wholesome One, joins us as well. And, of course, a lot of handles that are a bit indistinguishable for me. So I can't read everyone, but we appreciate you jumping on board. And, again, share the videos. You guys like the videos? Please share them to your other college football friends and family and so forth and so on. And understand that at 8 o'clock, that would be at 8 o'clock Eastern time, as I try to spit it out. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We've got Florida State talk, Ohio State, Clemson, Florida, at least those 4 lined up. I guess I got UCLA as well coming up. So check us out there. Talking Florida State, Cam, have you kept your eye on the 2 chief rivals in state?
I mean, I have to, especially with so many recruiting battles against Florida this year, that they invariably won. You're talking Lloyd Summerall, you're talking Keon Zipper, you're talking Chris Bogle. We offered Naquan Wright as a sophomore, running back out of Carroll City, but didn't follow up on that. He ends up going up there as well. They got RJ Henderson out of Texas, who was a wide receiver, 4-star. They got some dudes going to Florida. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try, to say otherwise, and yeah, they did really well. I think they got 7 blue chippers from the state of Florida, which is the most of any single school. They closed really well today. I mean, shoot, yeah, Florida did, they did a good job. So yeah, definitely was checking on them. And then Florida State also, we had some recruiting battles with them, won a couple of those, lost a couple of those as well. So yeah, I mean, Florida State is the one that I try to, keep one eye on every year, because they're the ones that we play every year and they're in our conference. So yeah, I do try to, definitely look that way. But yeah, no, I've looked over, what they both did, and, both of them did well. Especially, like I said, at the end, Florida State beat beat us for Darius Washington, Florida. Like I said, you have a bunch of guys that, chose to go up to Gainesville instead of coming down or staying in Coral Gables. So, even a previous commit, Jarvis Brownlee, he decided to flip from Miami to Florida State previously. And, there are other guys. So, I mean, there's definitely a strong connection to, at least my attention being on both of those teams. So, yeah, I think that both of them definitely did add talent to the roster, Florida more than anybody else. But hopefully Miami can close that gap a little bit with the transfers through the portal, and we can move forward into the 2020 cycle.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, joining us to talk Miami football on another Wednesday night here. We will try to make this a regular date at 7 o'clock Eastern time every Wednesday. We will do our best, but obviously Cam has other obligations. I do as well at times, but most of the time, 7 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday. You do your part by liking the videos and sharing the videos out there in the social media world, and of course, subscribing to the channel. Daniel Ogre, Tabardine, a lot of good people on here. Devin Brown, saying hi as well.
Yeah.
And understand, folks, that many times you guys get on the line and you ask questions that we've already covered. So in regards to offensive line and the transfer portal and a number of other things, the 2020 class, Cam's addressed it. Wait for the video to post, and you can then check out Cam's analysis. All right. Yeah. What date did you give for day one of spring camp?
March 15th, 19th. Let me click this just to be sure. Come on. March 19th, yeah. And it's going to be the same format as usual, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday practice for the 5 weeks, so they get their 15 in. So, yeah.
So we've got about 6 weeks for Cam to set us up on positional battles. Also, in the past, we've dug up some pretty interesting topics from, what is considered an evergreen library, like, your favorite Kane of all time, your favorite current Kane, your favorite games, your most excruciating losses, all those sorts of things that we've talked about in the past. We can kick around here in the next several weeks. What do you guys have lined up on State of the U?
Man, honestly, I was just trying to get through today.
I got you. That's unfair on my part.
Actually, as we usually have on Wednesday night, we have a basketball game going on. So I'm looking over there real quick, up by 2 on Notre Dame, coming up towards halftime. So we have that. What's let me look at the schedule email. Yeah, so we're just really trying to keep pushing things forward. We had our 2018 season reviews finishing up. I have to personally review a couple of things, so that'll be coming up soon. We got basketball in full swing. We have other non-revenue sports in full swing, so we're looking at those kind of things. And then, we're just going to start to dig into or just keep pushing forward with recruiting. So obviously, like in a little bit after I decompress, just resetting the board. So seeing, really digging into who the 2020 commits are, looking forward to other targets on the board who either have offers or could potentially get offers for 2020. And just a variety of different things. So, I haven't really mapped out the rest of the offseason yet. But obviously, we're going to look, spring previews for all the positions and see, where things go and things like that. So, there's always something coming up on State of the U. But, even if I don't say it or if I forget it, go and be sure to check out the website. And I'm guaranteeing that there'll be something there for you.
And, of course, we will look at the 2019 schedule as we've looked at the Florida game in particular, because you guys are hyped about that. But really break through on the schedule, which includes, of course, the 2 crossover games against Florida State every year. And this year it's against Louisville, which should be a pretty light touch, you would think, after that dismal 0-8 campaign.
But, Satterfield's a good coach, and they actually recruited pretty well. They closed pretty decently. There were a couple of guys that Miami was kind of kicking the tires on to bring in and decided not to go that route. And those few of those guys actually signed with Louisville. So Jadarian Boykin, who's a 4-star defensive end, Jalen Mitchell, who's a 3-star running back. But he's like 6'1", 210. He's a big dude. Both of those guys and a couple other ones picked Louisville as well. So, I'm not necessarily going to look past anybody. So, like Sun Tzu said, respect all opponents, but fear none. So I'm not going to overlook anybody, because on any given Saturday, somebody can come up, raise their performance and beat you. And Miami is not that Miami of 2001 right now, where we can be on autopilot and cruise control and just beat anybody. So yeah, we definitely do need to pay attention and raise our game and play every snap, in a very serious, intentional kind of a way. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, with those crossover matchups between Florida State and Louisville, and then everybody else on the schedule.
So Cam, please take off the Miami jacket. All right. And I know you tried to.
Well, I don't have a shirt on under this, so I can't do that right now.
I know you tried to be, well, not literally, unless you want to, of course.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
And I know you try to be unbiased when you answer these kind of questions, but really, tuck it away in the corner. Looking at this division, if we are just looking at talent, Miami has the best roster, correct?
Fair.
And there's no question about it. Okay.
No question at all.
Again, being fair and looking at the plethora of outstanding rosters across the country, the top in the Big Ten, the SEC, all the way across the Power Five, where would you place Miami? Not that they're going to perform to this level in regards to wins and losses this year, but where would you place the talent on the roster? Top 15, top 20?
I would probably say Miami's probably somewhere in that top 20 to 25, probably like top 20 range for just roster talent. Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is, the thing that you have to always consider when looking at roster talent like that is depth, not just the top end. And Miami does have that top end to compete with a lot of teams. I'm not going to say anybody, but the starting 11 on both sides is very high caliber. Miami has a high standard of athleticism and talent across the board on the starting unit. It starts to get untenable, when you start to rotate in backups. You really don't have a good offensive line and definitely don't have depth up there. That's going to be a thing that's going to deteriorate or lower the ranking for me. We've joked about it on during games for years, but Manny Diaz, when he was defensive coordinator, he would love to do these hockey line change, wholesale changes on defense. Like, you'd see 10 guys run off and one guy run on, and invariably the other team would gash Miami when they had these backups out there. I mean, that touchdown, the first touchdown that LSU scored on that stretch play was mostly, all three starting linebackers were out of the game in the first quarter. Why? You can't rotate one or two. You're taking Durant and Curry and Thompson and everybody off the floor at the same time and thinking, oh, everything's going to be cool. The guys you put out there are not those same caliber guys. This is not Alabama, where it's a nameless, faceless kind of thing, where you have Damian Harris and he gets injured for part of a game. You have the Jacobs kid. He comes in as a 3-star recruit, and now he's going to maybe be a second-round draft pick, and he could arguably be better than Damian Harris. And then behind them, you have Najee Harris, who's the number one recruit in America behind them. And, even you got guys at Alabama. Deshaun Hand, 6 years ago, was the number one recruit in all of America. And he didn't play till his 4th year at Alabama. He's a redshirt junior before he saw any kind of meaningful snaps. He goes to my Detroit Lions, and he was first team all rookie. He had such a great season as an interior lineman in the NFL. The last time somebody had that kind of production was Aaron Donald as a rookie. And this guy couldn't see the field at Alabama. You know what I'm saying? So that depth of talent is where I would put Miami down in that 20-25 range, just because, you start to lose one guy or another and the quality of product changes dramatically.
So that was definitely fair, because I was going in the 15 to 20 range, and Cam, even with his allegiance, went to the 20 to 25 range in regards to national talent because of the depth issue in some areas. So if you look at the division, I know that Pitt went 6-2. I really don't look at the records right now. Obviously, they mean everything, and that's all that counts is getting to the ACC championship game. But if you strip off the records and we started the season over, even if we brought everybody back for 2018, who knows what? I would not be putting my money on Pitt, but hey, great job. They got it done in the 8 games that they needed to, going 6-2 in the ACC. Who has the second best roster in that? I think you take North Carolina out of it, and it's, wow, you've got a lot of rosters from about 35 to 45 to 50 in the nation.
I mean, in the Coastal Division, in our division of the ACC, man. I mean, like, I would say Virginia Tech, but I don't even know if they have a playable roster. Like, I mean, even if you had to cut from 85 to 53 to an NFL size roster, like Virginia Tech would be struggling right now because they have so many transfers. So they're definitely not on that level with either talent or depth. Virginia, I guess Georgia Tech is undergoing a complete overhaul because Paul Johnson retired, was forced out, and they're switching from that awful offense that they ran. Even though they did get like Jameis Griffin, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Georgia, as a running back to go to Georgia Tech, and that kid can ball. Pittsburgh isn't. I mean, like there's just Duke is terrible. I mean, on talent, like across, like on that like roster talent kind of thing. So yeah, I would say like Virginia or Pittsburgh would have the second best roster in the Coastal behind Miami. But I mean, it's definitely not like a clear answer in my mind. And definitely Miami should, again, if Miami does what Miami needs to do, there's no reason we shouldn't be pulling up to Charlotte every single year for the ACC championship.
Yeah, those other 5 teams could play in any order, and I think it's a flip of the coin. You got North Carolina on one end, you got Miami on one end, and if the Canes don't do what they should be doing, and if they play like they did last year, of course, then you could throw them in with the other 5 because that's what you've got. Now, here's another theoretical scenario for you. Same team as what we had last season at Miami, except one position. Take Trevor Lawrence and give him to Miami.
Oh man, we do numbers. No, we do numbers. No, we do. I mean, we do numbers. There's none of those games that we lose. Virginia, nope, we blow them out. Boston College, nope, we blow them. I mean, like, no, if we had now, obviously, the offensive line would have to be better than they were. But like I said, in recruiting, people were saying it, and myself, I was one of them for years. This kid is a generational talent. He is a transcendent player. And yeah, I mean, like, God, you're talking about Miami. And I think if I look it up really quickly, Miami completed over the course of last season. I'm trying to stall so I get to load.
What, there we go. Going for a percentage?
51% completions for the year.
Say 52. Okay.
Yeah. Rozier was at 52, personally. But yeah, 51.1% completions. Dude, Trevor Lawrence? Like, nah, Miami does numbers with that guy. I mean, even in the LSU game, I can think of 2, maybe 3 touchdowns that Malik Rozier had that were not touchdowns because the ball wasn't there. There was a post route to Jeff Thomas that, he made a sliding catch between 3 defenders, but if you put that ball 10 yards further, he's leaving those guys. You know what I mean? Jeff Thomas was running butt naked wide open on another play that the ball didn't even go his way because Malik Rozier didn't process the field and didn't see him running butt naked wide open, doing backflips and cartwheels down the seam, things like that. But no. I would be interested to see, maybe like who would be not like a step down from Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, I was going to ask the same thing. So I was going to go like Daniel Jones, Ryan Finley, still very good players.
Yeah, I like Finley as a college quarterback better than Jones just because I never liked Daniel Jones. I didn't think he was very good. But, if you upgrade the quarterback position, and Miami was one of like the 3 worst quarterbacked teams in college football last year. Even if you go from terrible to decent, that's another 2 or 3 wins right there. And if you want to put in, go from terrible to transcendent from, what Miami had to Trevor Lawrence, then yeah, like all those games that Miami lost, is they're closer or wins. So yeah, hopefully we'll see that kind of progression this year when with a new quarterback or whoever it is, or just the progression of scheme and the updates and things like that. But yeah, if Miami would have had even a league average quarterback last year, things would have been different. If they would have had Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, somebody transcended in that position, then yeah, it would have been way better.
Absolutely. So That 7-6 is in the books, and I know Manny Diaz is owning it, but he now owns what is rated as about the 28th best class in the country, but much better than what we were looking at in the mid to high 40s just a few weeks ago. And again, go to State of the U, catch Cam and the rest of the crew there in their breakdown of National Signing Day and the entire class. We're about 6 weeks away from spring practice. Yes, we've got about 270 people on the line. You're asking all sorts of positional questions. We've got 6 weeks to break down positions before we get to spring ball, and we will do exactly that. I would ask that you press the like button. You bring the rest of your comments to the videos themselves, not the live chat, but the actual videos. And, of course, subscribe to the channel and share the videos. And if you missed anything, which apparently many of you missed a ton, you just wait for the video to process and post, and you're all set. And you can rewatch Cam's analysis on National Signing Day. Cam, it's time to catch some Z's, I guess, or just relax.
A little bit of both, you know. So yeah, I'm definitely just gonna sit back and enjoy a nice adult beverage and have some dinner, and then just probably rack it early because, like I said, I was up late and then just grinding all day today. So, you know, but it's I'm not complaining about it or anything. You know, I signed up for this. You know, I do enjoy doing this. And like I said, you know, when I started blogging, recruiting was the thing that I started with. And it is a passion of mine, obviously, and to follow recruiting 360, you know, some odd days a year, because I do take a couple days off. You know, it's tough, you know, because a lot of these guys, you know, you're following them for multiple years and you're just following all these things and these camps and these developments and, you know the names way out, and because you're just looking at so much different stuff. But like I said, I do enjoy it. I am hopeful that my enjoyment of what I do and covering and following these guys comes across to you guys, both on these videos and on the website. So, you know, hopefully you guys do enjoy that, and it's my pleasure to bring it to you guys. But it is a little taxing because, you know, I'm no spring chicken anymore. So, yeah, I'm going to have a drink and hit the sack. But I appreciate it.
Wait a minute. One of us is talking about not being a spring chicken anymore. Really?
Hey, man, I'm tired. Whatever. Like, yeah, whatever. I know that, you know, chronologically you might have a couple years on me, bro, but I'm tired. That's the point. I'm tired, okay?
All right. So my grind continues. So join me at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, on the main channel there with Ohio State, Florida, Clemson, and UCLA at the minimum. Keep in mind that I did this last year, and Cam has been a faithful guest for several years now. I think we go back to I remember right around bowl time 2013 against Louisville being about the time that I was able to get Cam on for the first time. But I go there to say last year I opened up the line to any of my guests to jump on, and by the end of the night, 23 reports on National Signing Day. So we are going to do it up big for the rest of the night over at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam, we appreciate your contribution each and every week. It's irreplaceable. That's how I'll tag it this week.
Like I said, I appreciate it. I definitely am a humble person, so I'm not going to get a big head about it. But, you know, I do enjoy spending this time with you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as well. You know, keep following, supporting State of the U. That's Facebook.com/The State of the U, Twitter.com/The State of the U. I'm at Underwood Sports. And then the website is stateoftheu.com. So, you know, we're there all the time. Come fan with us, guys.
All right, guys, we will see you in just a few minutes. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, 8 o'clock Eastern time with all those teams that I mentioned right there. Like the videos, share, and subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Cam, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
See you soon.